It's that time we bring the press preview. We'll do a press preview. First look at what's on the front pages of the papers. And we start with our sister publication, This Day newspaper. The house on its front page, 2023, you must go. Southwest PDP is telling this to Atiku. He has about 4 riders. Resolved to back party's presidential standard bearer. Ex-VP says request achievable, but must follow due process. That's where the snag is. PDP candidate has capacity to unite Nigeria, Makinde declares. Ibazu, the governor of Abia State, PDP needs genuine reconciliation to be victorious. All right, let's look at some other stories on the orange strip. NNPC NAS on collision course as National Oil Company shuns Senate summons. Senate backs scrapping of 400 federal agencies to save the economy. Let's look at some other stories there. It says Buhari to present 19.76 trillion naira appropriation bill to National Assembly next month. And on the top mast, federal government, Port Harcourt refinery will resume production by December. That will be interesting if they knock that off. All right, let's go to some other papers.
The Punch newspaper says PDP crisis, Atiku Wabara meet aggrieved governors and Makinde demands IU's exit. Ekiti Road collapses, motorists groan, seek government's intervention, that's the community now, and the Senate to scrap more than 400 MDAs in 2023.
The Nation newspaper. Makinde leads Southwest PDP on IU must go call with a rider or two. Oyo Governor to Atiku, party must be restructured. Chair's exit must follow due process. Let's look at some other stories there. Akeredolu Adebayo lead teams for Tinubu. Buhari to present the budget to National Assembly next month. Oyetola Adeleke Bika over report of overvoting, and buyers of seized Lagos properties to pay 2001 price.
In the Guardian newspaper, energy crisis forces Nigeria's 43 million households to spend 8.9 trillion naira a year. Southwest PDP resolves to back Atiku as Makinde insists you must go.
All right, let's look at the leadership. Leadership newspaper. Okay, he's already there. I can't talk. This is 1995 Durbar hotel bombing. I can't talk until U.S. Embassy speaks. Accused ex-U.S. envoy is saying this to riders. I can't recall the incident Mahdi Shehu is talking about. Kaduna ex-military governor General Jafar Issa is saying that police, DSS, U.S. Embassy, they keep mum on this particular issue. Dogara Babachir continue agitation against APC Muslim ticket, and Police Service Commission chairman resigns. All right, that's for
the international papers now. The Financial Times. Royal family escorts Queen in procession to Westminster Hall, and Kwarteng set to end cap on bankers' bonuses.
The Daily Telegraph. Nations stand to say farewell to the Queen, of course.
The Times. A nation pays its respects.
And then the I newspaper. The long goodbye.
Independent. Britain lines up to say farewell to the Queen.
All right. All right, let's take one more and then bring in the birthday boy. The Times. The nation pays its respects again to the Queen. All right, it's time to bring in the birthday boy, Emmanuel Bello. Happy birthday to you.
Indeed, thank you so very much.
Happy birthday, good morning.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad to have you this morning. Yeah. All right, this day, let's start with this day. 2023, you must go. Southwest PDP tells Atiku. Atiku himself says the Constitution, you will go, but the Constitution has to be amended, because if this northerner goes, another is supposed to step in. And so the argument is, why you didn't obey your constitution on zoning. That's why you came on board. So look at that.
Well, you know,
and then the Port Harcourt refinery
yes,
story.
That's a very important story too, and this they captured all of that in its own very, very unique, style of journalism. It's a good thing that these days beaming on the IU story, but it's not entirely an IU story. It's also an Atiku story, because this is actually for Atiku crunch time. You know, it's the whole agitation that IU must go is also a referendum on the capacity of Atiku to make decisions and to take tough decisions. So is he going to buckle under and actually sack IU or ask IU to go, or is he going to be strong? He already said that, for instance, that look, it's not as if it's not a doable thing, but it has to follow some constitutional path, because if you are going to form the next government, or you are planning to form the next government, and you are giving the impression that you can't even obey your constitution, or that you can buckle under some kind of pressure to take maybe a decision that is, that is probably not very necessary but popular, but that actually is also a testimony. It's also actually some kind of testimonial about your leadership skill and what you do. So this for Atiku is actually a trying time, a testing time. What does it do? He has to balance gingerly almost the issue of taking decisions, and of course the issue of doing what is right and what is not right. And the whole world is watching to see how he's going to balance all of that. And already we see him caving a bit to those demands, especially the demands strongly raised by Governor Wike. Makinde now also echoing it for the Southwest and saying, you must go, and that you cannot have the presidential candidate coming from the same place as the party chair. So we're saying it's actually for us, for me particularly, I look at Atiku and I ask myself, what kind of decision is he going to take? What quality of decision is he going to take? Because a lot of this has to do with him. But he's also speaking now, he's saying that, look, well, it's not as if it's not an achievable feat, but it's one that has to follow due process. So we'll see him now as a candidate that wants to follow due process of doing things, a candidate that cannot be rushed into just taking decision or buckling suddenly under maybe demands and pressures from his team. Some people will say that that's good leadership, but some people will say that, look, he has to stand firm on the position he is taking in the past, which is, look, IU must stay, and that whichever way you look at it, it's actually a problem for Atiku, as much as it's a problem for IU, whether IU will listen to popular demands now and actually step down. And the refinery story you mentioned, that's beautiful. If Port Harcourt refinery starts working, remember down the line in the year we've done a story of how these refineries have got workers who are collecting salaries, huge money is being spent on turnaround maintenance, and then none of them is working. You have one in Kaduna, there's the other one in Warri, and now the Port Harcourt. But the good news coming is that Port Harcourt is going to be happening in December. Just think about all the implications for the crisis that we'll be talking about the oil sector. And this day has actually been on the crisis of the oil sector for a very long time, looking at every angle: the theft, the refineries that are not working, the crisis of even the laws, the enabling laws around the how functional or not functioning the oil sector can be. So it's a good story, it's a good one. A lot of people, a lot of activists in that sector will want to look at that story and see what's there.
In the Punch newspaper, Emmanuel, the Senate is looking to scrapping more than 400 MDAs in 2023. We've heard a lot about the Oronsanya report, but nothing's been done so far. Is this going to happen?
Well, it looks like, Kenneth, one of the best push towards ensuring it happens, because that was a very beautiful report to say, look, what do you need 400 agencies for that are not actually producing anything? One of the agencies, the Biosafety Management Agency, for instance, gets close to 50 million from the nation cover, and then remits 500 million, and then remits only 2 million at the end of the year. It's it's a joke, and that's part of the problem you have with this country. You have this multifaceted agencies practically doing the same thing in most cases, and then you're just creating jobs for the boys. If we're going to be a serious country and we're going to take tough decisions, we're going to join the rest of the world in moving forward, we may have to think of some of the reports that, for instance, contained in the Oronsanya report, that, look, you have to streamline either reduce or even cut off, or as a matter of fact, scrap some of these agencies, because you just have them, you know, doing the same thing that every other person is doing, and then they are not remitting anything. Why? It's not good for business. It doesn't make sense. The kind of world we're getting into and the kind of you know, times we're in calls for, you know, thinking really you know, outside the box on how to make agency more profitable, and think of them as business ventures. You can't be putting in 500 million, for instance, in an agency, and then it's remitting only 2 million. In fact, it's actually a drop from the 5 million they were even remitting in the past. Doesn't make sense. So if you do some mergers, some putting together of some of this ministry, even you have this over bloated ministry, and this should go down to the states. In some states, you have the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, or you have the Ministry of you know, you have all sorts of things. There should be some mergers. Don't just think of creating jobs for the boys. Think of what can work.
Jobs for the boys. That's interesting. All right, let's look at leadership. 27 years ago, in 1995, there was a bombing in Kaduna's Adoba Hotel, and the guy in the eye of the storm, the American, is saying, I can't talk until U.S. Embassy speaks. U.S. Embassy is not speaking. A general is saying, I can't recall Mahdi Shehu accusing Hanks that he ever gave me a brief. And Hanks is saying, until American Embassy speaks, then come back to me, I can say something.
Well, India, I think this is a very troubling story, because if you listen to what Mahdi had to say in that interview, it's gone viral now. You know, in fact, I've never heard it like that. It's almost, if it was not true, you would think that actually it's a page out of one of those, you know, novels we used to read, some of those thrillers. It's talking about how he was approached to go and plant a bomb and bomb somewhere, and then he didn't do it, but that a journalist, Bagauda Kalto, was given that assignment, and then he planted the bomb, and of course later was killed. He was, you know, it's a story that goes to the heart of the crisis that we used to talk about, the problem of the fact that you know, foreign powers support terrorism, support some of this regime change on the continent. But now you have the U.S. envoy saying that, look, he can't remember, or he's not going to talk unless the embassy here speaks. I think it's a very interesting story that we should be beaming on, and the leadership actually took its time to say, let them look at it. And the interview first happened here on this network with Mahdi Shehu making those really, you know, staggering revelations about the role he played and how he was asked to help the American government effect a regime change in the country through that Dobat bombing. I think it's a very interesting story. It's amazing that General Jafaru, was military administrator then in Kaduna State, suddenly say he's forgotten everything. He remembered everything on to the point of Mahdi coming to him. He remembered the fact that there was a conference where they were talking about the fact that it's not in our character that we are all those during the time. So it's an interesting piece of story. It brings back some of the history, some of the things that happened in the past, and for people who are not aware of some of these things, it's an opportunity to still go back to those times. But whatever it is, it's a very interesting story. It's a good thing that leadership is, look weighing on that story now.
Of course, you can join this press preview. Tweet at Arise TV with the hashtag Arise Daybreak. Emmanuel, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, pro-chancellors, vice-chancellors intervene in ASU's 7-month strike. Of course, the federal government had taken the ASU union to the National Industrial Court, and they're supposed to be back in court tomorrow. What should we expect?
Yeah, well, it's that back and forth that a lot of people are worried about, and at this point, I think it's an issue that a lot of people are really worried about. The students are worried, the government seems to be worried now, and of course, the lecturers. There's been blackmail along the line, but ultimately, I think for everyone of anybody of goodwill is that, look, there must be some kind of closure and some kind of solution to the ASU crisis. Nobody is gaining in this crisis as it is right now. If you are a parent, you're worried about the fact that your wards are back home. If you're a lecturer, you're also worried that, look, I know personally some of the lecturers I've spoken to who have actually moved on to other things and telling me that, look, we're not even going back to the university system. It's a serious crisis. And then the other day there was a report on this network on even the small businesses around university that are losing. Those are some of the human angle story, beyond the talks, beyond the legalese of it and the
economic aspect.
Yes, you worry about what this has cost us. And of course, even for the government, it's bad records. In an election year, it is red meat for the opposition to say, look, under your watch, schools and universities have been down for this number of days, over 200 days now. It's not good for it. There's no way you can campaign around the issue of education, and the opposition is going to use it. But that's, even by the way, the most important thing is to worry about the next generation of these kids that are home, students who are back home and cannot actually function because they can't go back to school.
And this has been over the years, and then the UK government is being evasive on Ekweremado's health status, but we don't have time to talk about that now. Thank you once again, birthday boy. Happy birthday. That's Emmanuel Bello there.
Thank you
for
so
press
much,
preview.
yes.
Let's hear your view on all the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. You can join today's conversation using the hashtag AriseDaily.